through the natural rainwater that happens over time. So that's the reason that I've recommended drip irrigation. Is if you're going to go with the community system, it has the most benefit and least impact to the existing groundwater system that's out there.
Ma'am, you have any other questions?
Pat, this is Joanne.
Yeah.
I think you skipped Nick Bonkowski. He is online.
Oh, he was not online for the first hour and a half, so that's why I skipped him.
Yeah, he is there now.
Okay, well, hang on. I don't know if... Dr. Wright, are you done?
You muted me. That's why I couldn't...
You're muted again.
Okay, wait a minute.
I thought you were finished with me, so you muted me. We didn't do it. I'm finished. Thank you.
Okay, how about Mr. Vosberg? Did he have any questions?
Yes.
Okay, thank you both. So if Mr. Bonkowski is on, does he have any questions?
Sorry, we had trouble logging into the meeting. I think I had the wrong number. This is Jackie Bonkowski. The only question I had was if there was a design flaw with the water system, who owns that responsibility and how is that responsibility secured?
You're talking about wastewater disposal system or the water system? Because I can only speak to the wastewater.
To the wastewater. So if there's a wastewater design flaw that somehow does impact the surrounding area, who owns that risk and how is that secured?
What actually is done is there's monitoring wells on the before we even leave the property and have any potential of impacting any surrounding aquifers or adjoining properties. There's quarterly sampling at the monitoring wells, so we will know that. That's reported to DEP. So DEP is the regulatory agency or the watchdog to ensure that it doesn't. So there's no security that's put in place. Instead, there's actually regulations and permit requirements that prevent it from from happening. And DEP would take enforcement action against the owner of the facility, whoever that may be, to prevent the groundwater table and the adjoining properties from being impacted from this system.
So in this case, it would be toll that would, in a instance of a design flaw where these monitoring wells have negative readings and something needs to be changed or modified or updated, who does that?
Well, it depends when it happens. If it happens during the maintenance period, that will be there. But the purpose of it is not to allow that. That's why we're using proofing technology that is used all across southeastern Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Maryland, and the entire United States, as far as the sequential batch reactor, as well as drip irrigation. And there are three safeguards. Number one, the professional engineer who does the design. Number two, the township engineer reviews it and makes sure that it complies with all standards and provides the adjoining safeguards. And then number three, it's reviewed and approved and permitted by the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection. So this is not a new technology. This is not anything here that is not commonly used. There is no experimental risks or things like that. Everything that's here is tried and true. And if there is something that's going wrong, it is easily corrected because there are dozens of the adjoining municipalities that use this type of treatment plant.
Ma'am, any other questions?
Nothing else.
Thank you. Mr. Pomerantz, we're just a little bit after 9. We're almost through all of the resident parties, and then we have questions from the board. Is it your preference that we just plow ahead at this point?
To be candid with you is that I think most of us would probably want to watch the debate, but if we think that we can get through these questions fairly quickly, yeah, I'd say let's just do this in fairness to the applicant.
Understood.
Thank you.
Mr. Hurst, do you have any questions, or Suzanne Kruger?
Yeah, just one quick question. If they move to the design that actually takes the affluent away into the community sewer system over in East Goshen, I think it is.
West Goshen.
West Goshen. Is there some kind of pumping system that has to be installed there to be able to do that?
Absolutely. There will be a minimum of one pump station located on the site, which would then pump it up Street Road and into the existing gravity sanitary sewer collection system. And there would actually be upgrades to downstream pump stations as well. But there would definitely be a minimum of one pump station on this site.
Any idea where that would be located?
If you follow the stream corridor, it's probably going to be someplace in the south west corridor. All the stream corridors that you see on there, that's generally how topography runs. It would run down there. There is two main drainage areas that are on this property, so it is possible that there may be two pump stations. You know, we haven't got that far, but there would be at least one somewhere on the south to southwest corner of the property.
So right there where New Street and 926 intersect?
Yeah, it would be further up New Street is where those two stream corridors kind of come together. But in that general location, that's the low point of the property. That's where the water flows today.
And what's the noise factor on something like that?
On a pump station, almost none besides the emergency generator. The pumps that are out there are actually underwater, so no noise comes from the pumps. If you had a hydraulic muffin monster that'd be located in a building, I mean, that definitely produces a sound. But that's why it's inside the building. And then the emergency generator will run, for a half an hour to 45 minutes, once a week, every week during the day. And then there would, anytime we have emergency power or loss of electrical power, that generator will run until public power is restored.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hurst. How about Thomas Martin or Renee Rockwood?
Just a follow-on question on the system failure. So knowing that nothing that's engineered or built will last forever, nor will run perfectly indefinitely. So when that failure does occur, where does the responsibility lie for remediation with a system like this?
Like any system, it will belong to the owner. That's why the majority of them are owned by municipalities. And what we actually do as part of the sewer rental fee for a community system like that is we actually have what's known as a capital reserve, or almost like a depreciation, that if something has a life of 10 years, we save 1/10 of the replacement value of that every year, such that before it wears out at approximately 9% of its design life, it will be replaced. Anything that's mechanical will fail. Absolutely, no question about it. And that's why the other things that we're doing is we're providing full treatment of the wastewater so that the soils won't fail. Because the only thing the soils have to do is what they've done for 10,000 years, is absorb water. We're not asking them to do any treatment. Individual on-lot systems fail because they're asked to do both treatment and disposal. Here we're doing all the treatment and basically putting in clean, relatively close to rainwater. It's not, but relatively close in there, which the soils have shown to absorb, and that's why it became the drainage classification that they are.
So you're telling me that the plan is for this plant to fail every 10 years and it has to be replaced?
No. There are components such as pumps that have a life of 5 years, of 10 years. There are components such as the precast concrete that will have a life of 100 years. So we take each component and we divide it by its design life. The average life of most mechanical components, the overall weighted average of a treatment plant is about 40 years. And if you look at any municipal treatment plant, almost every municipal treatment plant is upgraded every 30 to 40 years.
Will there be a schedule to upgrade this plant every 30 to 40 years?
There will be a reserve for it, and there absolutely will be.
Okay. Do you know who would hold that reserve?
Whoever is the owner of that. So it's municipally owned. As part of the sewer rental fee, there would be the actual operation and maintenance component, and then the capital reserve component of that. So that will be collected and stored in the reserve accounts of whoever owns and operates the treatment plant.
Got it. Okay, and I may have missed it, but the town is planning on purchasing this facility?
I do not know that. All I can represent is that I would offer it to dedication as my first priority to the township. Whether they accept dedication, I don't know, and I have never asked the supervisors that question.
And if the town doesn't accept ownership, where does the ownership lie?
It will then go to a third party. It will be then sold to a third party public utility regulated company, such as Aqua Pennsylvania or Pennsylvania American.
Okay. Does the township have any control over where that sale goes?
No. If the township doesn't want it, I don't believe. I mean, they do it through the 537 plan, but quite honestly, if they won't accept it and it's acceptable to DEP, the township has little say because they had the option to take dedication. When they did not take that dedication, so long as it's a third-party public utility company, they have little say as to whether it's Aqua, Pennsylvania American, or any other companies. I should just identify two. But no.
Okay, so if the town, so I don't know that the town wants another sewage plant. But let's say that they don't. It could be owned by some highly disreputable company with no plans to really hold the necessary reserves nor maintain the facility as it should be.
No, that's not true at all. It's regulated by the Public Utility Commission. They are required and held accountable for both their rates as well as their operation and maintenance, and they're required to go through their docket. That's why we go. That's the purpose of the Public Utility Commission, and that's exactly why that would be my second choice for that. So long as they meet all the requirements of the Public Utility Commission, I don't know that there would be much discussion. I mean, I would have a personal preference on who I would use, but at the end of the day, that would be determined at that time.
Got it. And is there any guarantee that you're presuming that somebody would buy it and operate this within the regulations?
There would be a high desire by a lot of companies to buy this. That's why Aqua Pennsylvania is buying all the existing public systems, because there's a lot of money to be made, and it's a very, very valuable asset that will remain forever.
Do you know if Toll is securing commitment from anybody to purchase this should the town decline?
We are not that far into the discussions yet.
Does Toll generally do that to guarantee that somebody will pick this up?
That would have to be identified as the first step in the Act 537 planning. We would actually have to identify who the long-term owner and operator of this facility would be. That's the first step before I could even do the design.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Ann or John Hellion?
Hi. I have a question. What's the relevant cost of the systems? To put the system, is the tie-in to the public sewer more or less expensive than putting in an on-site system?
It's actually really close, to be honest with you. It's probably actually cheaper to do the on-lot system, only because of the amount of upgrades of the force main in South Concord Road. I don't have a detailed cost estimate of both of them, but I do know that we reviewed that with Toll to make sure that they were comfortable with those costs, and they definitively were. But I believe that the actual on-lot system would actually be cheaper. That's a lot of off-strike main going up Street Road in a public roadway, as well as South Concord. I mean, there's millions of dollars in force main there.
You know, you're a recommending body, I assume. Did you recommend Toll to do the public sewer? You said that would be the quote-unquote best option, from what I understood you to say.
I'm not a recommending body. I'm a consultant where they pay me for my opinion. I also represent 24 municipalities. I always recommend to everyone tie into an existing public sewer system whenever you can. It's much better. There's economy of scale. You have lower operating costs. You already have municipally owned and operated facilities. There are many, many benefits to doing that compared to building a new wastewater treatment plant and with a new district with a limited number of customers in comparison to the number of customers that are served by the West Goshen wastewater treatment plant.
That sounds logical. All right, thank you very much for your answers. I'm done.
How about Ann Hellion? Sorry, Mr. Hellion, you're on mute, so I couldn't hear you. She has no questions?
No questions.
Thank you. Myron or Sharon Grubal?
Yeah, I have one question. Mr. Ebert, you testified, I believe, that you'd require about 20 acres of land that would be required for this drip field. Is that correct?
There would be, I need to have 13 wetted acres or usable acres. I estimated that I would need to have approximately 18 gross acres in order to yield 13 wetted acres, and we've identified 26.55 acres as potential.
Okay, so out of that 26.5, you'd want to use approximately 18 of them, correct?
Yeah, I would be using 18 of it, and netting 13 out of that 18.
Okay, so if I'm not mistaken, and this may be an answer, Mr. McKenna, you can answer or whatever, but there's a requirement for so much open space out of the total 320 acres, correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, it's minuscule, but because Mr. Ebert said that he would recommend that this be fenced off and not be used, not be available for anything other than the drip field, would it still be allowed to be considered part of the open space?
This is beyond Mr. Ebert's testimony. We will have another witness who we can ask this question to. That would be the civil engineer.
Okay. All right. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the last party that I had that was here, I don't think is still here, but that's David Teal. I think Mr. Teal may have left.
Mr. Teal's left.
Okay, so does the board have any questions? Mr. Pomerantz?
I can unmute you myself. Fred, I wanted to congratulate you on one thing. We don't know each other, but notwithstanding that there would be people, including myself, who might not agree to everything that you're saying, but the way you articulated your answers, did it in a way that is, it was clear, and as such, I'm very much appreciative. I do have several questions for you, and I'll try to be quick. One is that I'm wondering if this is a style of speech, or whether there's something more here. On more than a few occasions, you would refer to our, my, us, and that was in reference to the property itself and your work on the property. What is the relationship between your firm and Toll?
Oh, I'm just a hired consultant. They are less than 5% of my business. I apologize. I kind of personalize all these designs, kind of come my little baby. I'm like my kids, so I use those terms. But no, I have no relationship with this property ownership in any way, and Toll Brothers represents. Yep.
No, that's fine, and no apologies necessary. On the issue of the generator, how many generators will there be?
There would be one generator at the wastewater treatment plant, and there most likely is going to be a generator at a pump station that will pump to the wastewater treatment plant, and one at the treatment plant. There's only one generator at there, so everything were to flow by gravity to the treatment plant, one generator. If
what's the size? Sorry, what's the size of the generator?
This generator would probably, on a treatment plant of this size, would probably be 125 kVA, and if it was a pump station, it would probably be a 60 kVA pump station.
Most generator, when there's a true lengthy interruption of power, notwithstanding that people do have generators, there tends to be almost like a finite duration of time that it works before it starts having problems. Let's assume that for whatever reason, I'm going to be hypothetical, and I'm hoping that Greg will allow me, I'm not saying this is going to happen, I'm trying to understand it. let's assume that there is a problem and there's a lack of power goes out over a 2-week period. Will the generator of that size be able to continue operating 24/7 for that period of time?
Let me answer your question 2 ways. The answer is yes. These are large municipal ones that operate for 30 or 40 years. In many cases, in many of my municipals, there's only a 24-hour supply of fuel running full time, full bore, so it has to be refilled up every 24 hours. It would actually last about 48 hours plus because it wouldn't run continuously. It would still cycle on and off. But they're actually there. What I also do in the design of my pump stations is that I put an emergency bypass pit in, so we could bring in a backup diesel pump and park it there that could be rented and brought in during emergencies and connect to the force main, because your two concerns are mechanical failure of the generator or a direct lightning strike. Direct lightning strike hits that and it's not operable for some reason. What do? So in my design, I have a emergency bypass connection, so that way, if for some reason, because if you get emergency power, but I get a fire and something burns up my controls, I have built in redundancy through that.
Next question, and it goes to this point that you were making, and please understand, it's not meant, my question is not meant to suggest anything nefarious, it's just to understand, because a lot of people might say, well, isn't there a conflict here? To the credit of your firm, I think you indicated that you provide your consulting services. It's either 23 or 24 municipalities. And in this case, however, you're actually representing the developer. Is there an inherent conflict there?
No, not at all. Especially in water and wastewater, there really isn't, because water and wastewater is just factual. So my opinion is going to be exactly the same whether I am representing Warwick Township or another one of my major municipal, Lower Mayfield, or if I'm representing Toll Brothers. My opinion will never change that way.
I appreciate it. Last question for you. If there's a theme that's coming through many of the questions, and I'm sure that you've picked up on it already, and I think this will be true whether it's a toll-related project or any kind of related project of this size, is a concern of, quote, well, what if something goes wrong? And it's been asked in a variety of different ways, which is perfectly understandable. And I guess the question I still have in my mind is that with all the safeguards that are going to be put in place, etc., and that's why I always tend to ask the following question when I'm being asked questions by my own clients, and that is, give me an example, or if you can, I don't want you to get into hypotheticals, but what is, if you were on the townships, you were now the township municipal consultant on this issue, what risks are there, what are the potential things that we should be thinking about that could go wrong and that we should be prepared for?
The first thing is selecting who's going to own and operate that, because the key to any wastewater treatment plant is a quality operator. So what I would really be most concerned about is getting the highest quality operator and getting the best written, documented preventative maintenance program in there, because something is only as good as it's operated and as it's maintained. This is a biological and a mechanical treatment system. It's both. The operator needs to operate the biology, and you need a proper operation and maintenance for the mechanical aspects of it. The other thing that I would look at, which we've done here, is ask the soil. The soil is your weak point. So ask the soil to do the least amount of work. Do all of the treatment with the treatment plant, and then just have the soils have to absorb clean water. That's the key. What would your biggest failure rate would be not properly treating the wastewater, and then a biofilm or biomat developing in your disposal field because you didn't properly treat it. So I would make sure that I had filtration after the treatment to protect that disposal field from any upset. I would also require, which we are here, is that if there is an upset, it goes into a 3-day holding tank, and that your operator hauls that wastewater away to another municipal treatment plant and is not put into your disposal field until that biological or mechanical upset is remedied.
I appreciate it very much. No more questions. Thank you.
Mr. Wolf, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Mr. Gill.
Just real quickly, Mr. Ebert, what is I know this is in your report, what is the total gallons per day you anticipate will be generated by this development?
80,750 gallons per day. It's 317 proposed residential units, 6 EDUs for the 2 community centers, times the township's flow per EDU of 250 gallons per day. So it's 323 times 250 is 80,750 gallons per day.
And you testified that the capacity that the township owns in the West Goshen plant's 530,000 gallons, is that right?
That is correct.
And then I think you said it's about 200,000. It's actually about 250,000 the township's currently using. Does that sound right?
Yeah, that would sound right, yes.
So even if if this development is tied into public sewer through the West Goshen plant, the township will still have 200,000 gallons of capacity available for future use beyond this development. Is that right?
That is correct.
That's all I have.
All right, Mr. Edelman, back to you.
I don't have any redirect.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ebert.
Thank you.
All right, I think that's going to conclude our hearing for this evening. We're going to stand in continuance until 7 p.m. on November 17th. Again, that hearing will be via Zoom. The information will be provided as it has been in the past, via letter to the parties, as well as the information being posted on the township website and going out via the township's listserv. I expect we will hear from Mr. Madden in November, Greg?
That's correct.
Okay. And we'll go from there. So anything further, Mr. Edelman?
No, nothing further.
Okay.
Can I ask a question, Patrick?
Oh, I'm sorry, Kristen, go ahead.
Just for purposes of planning and identifying when I should have township witnesses ready for the planning commission, Mr. Edelman, how many more witnesses do you expect to call after Mr. Madden?
That would be it on my case on direct, but reserving the right to call additional witnesses on rebuttal.
And do you believe that you will need more than one night for him? I guess it depends on questions, but is it your intention?
Yeah, I don't anticipate, Kristen, so it might be good to have somebody prepared just in case, but I can't anticipate how many questions will be asked.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for asking.
All right, thanks, everyone. We will conclude the hearing tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you.